Imagine waking up tomorrow in a world with 50 billion people. Not distant science fiction, but a brutal thought experiment with real consequences. Even now, major cities struggle with rent, heat, traffic, and water stress. 50 billion would push every major bottleneck into the same emergency. The first question is not whether Earth has enough space. The real question is how dense, clean, and stable life remains. Land alone cannot save a civilization from daily systemic collapse. Cities would have to grow taller, tighter, smarter, and far more efficient. Massive residential blocks would replace skylines far beyond today's megacities. Open suburbs would vanish first because land would become a luxury overnight. Every square mile would need housing, cooling, transit, and supply systems. Roads at today's scale would become unsustainable in many regions. Cities would stack into layers, logistics below, housing within, transit above. Elevators could become more important than cars, maybe even than roads. Urban design would stop being aesthetic and become survival mathematics. Even minor planning mistakes could cut millions off from basic services. A blackout would no longer be inconvenient, but a full-scale urban disaster. Redundancy would look expensive, yet without it, everything would fail. Then comes water, the quietest and most dangerous bottleneck of all. 50 billion people would not just drink, but also wash, cool, and sanitize. Rivers alone could never carry that burden across much of the planet. Desalination would need to evolve from coastal projects into core infrastructure. Every extra gallon would require energy, chemicals, pipes, labor, and maintenance. Any disruption would hit homes, hospitals, factories, and transit all at once. Water loss in pipelines would stop being waste and start becoming insanity. Cities would need to recycle nearly every drop of wastewater. Without closed-loop systems, dry nations would fail first and wealthy ones later. Rain would become reserve supply, and wastewater a strategic resource. Then comes food, and this is where the math gets brutal. More people means not just more calories, but far more protein. Traditional farming alone could barely stretch far enough to meet that demand. Fields would need to become denser, smarter, more automated, and productive year-round. Vertical farms could grow produce but not feed civilization by themselves. Grains, legumes, and plant oils would remain the hard foundation. Livestock at today's scale would consume enormous amounts of land and water. That is why lab-grown protein, fermentation, and aquaculture would turn strategic. Food would become less cultural and much more infrastructural. Even small harvest failures could send global prices soaring within weeks. Next comes the invisible machinery of daily logistics. Every person needs packaging, refrigeration, storage, transport, and medical distribution. Grocery stores would be only the visible tip of a giant system. Behind them, ports, rail lines, depots, and hubs would need perfect coordination. One blocked canal could suddenly leave entire continents short on food. Supply chains would need more buffers, even though buffers consume space. Cities would stockpile food, medicine, and water as strategic reserves. But storage only buys time, it never replaces production. With every meal, the waste problem would grow at the same time. 50 billion people would produce trash, sewage, chemical runoff, and toxic residue. When waste removal stalls, health systems often fail before power grids do. Sorting helps, but only if industrial reprocessing scales massively. Incineration eases landfill pressure, yet increases stress on air and energy. Recycling would need global standards, not just local good intentions. Cities without clean waste systems would get sick before they destabilize. Sanitation would become just as important as food and electricity. And then comes the hardest question of all: energy. Water, housing, transportation, and food all depend on power. 50 billion would not simply raise today's energy use in a straight line. An electrified world would also shift industry, heating, and mobility onto the grid. Solar power helps, but not through every night or every winter. Wind adds a lot, yet grids must absorb constant swings in output. Storage becomes essential, but storage also costs land, minerals, and time. That is where nuclear power would suddenly return to serious debate. Not because it feels elegant, but because reliable output becomes priceless. Yet reactors also require materials, cooling, labor, and political trust. Without massive grid expansion, even huge generation would remain regionally trapped. So energy is not just about volume, but also about distribution. Whoever controls power also controls water, food, and public order. In that world, energy policy becomes civilization policy. At the same time, nature would punish every additional mistake more severely. More coastal megacities would mean more risk from heat, storms, and sea level rise. Forests would become less of a refuge and more of a shield. Fertile soil would need protection while housing pressure kept growing. Every destroyed wetland weakens water storage, biodiversity, and local cooling. The planet would have fewer ecological buffers against greater human pressure. Climate resilience would stop being optional and become foundational. Without adaptation, natural disasters would quickly become supply disasters. Even more dangerous would be the political pressure behind all of this. Scarcity rarely creates calm. It usually creates fights over distribution. States would need coordination, even as crisis instincts push them inward. Wealthy regions might lock down supply while poorer ones fracture first. Migration would stop being exceptional and become permanent global pressure. Even democracy would come under strain if daily supply remained fragile. So the core question is not whether we physically fit. It is whether we plan wisely before limits teach us the hard way.